Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. With fall upon us, it's persimmon season in the life and style-ish backyard. I have a couple of great recipes to show you using this versatile fruit. While you may have heard about them, many are still unfamiliar with them and even less know how to prepare and eat them. Alright, first step is getting the top off. So the easiest thing for me to do is just cut the top there and get the top of the persimmon off. And once you cut it, it pops off very easily. So there it goes. And after that, next thing is just separating the fruit itself from the tough outer skin. As you can see, it's very tough. The skin is very leathery. You can't really eat it. You can bake it, but you can't really eat it. It's very tough, so it's just easier to go ahead and just take the separate it from the fruit altogether. So that's kind of what I'm doing there. And you'll see this one here is overripe, and the more ripe it is, the darker the color it is, the easier it is to separate from the skin, and the easier it is to bake with. So here I'm mixing mostly the wet ingredients, but I am doing some of the dry ingredients as well. But these are all the wet ingredients. So the egg is going in here. The sugar is going in there, but that's just kind of to bind everything together. The vanilla is going in there. That's what I'm pouring in with the eggs. And then after I get those in there, I'm stirring them up kind of to soften the butter up a little bit and to get the sugar kind of warmed up and liquefied as well. So just putting in the egg and the vanilla, and then I was going to pour in the persimmon, but it got solidified. It's like completely solidified. I don't know if the baking soda had anything to do with that. I'm not sure, but yeah, just going ahead and putting that in, both of those, that and the baking soda, and then just mixing it all together. So those are all my wet ingredients, getting them all mixed well and making sure that they, nothing is separated at all, because I don't have a hand mixer. So yeah, kind of have to do this all by hand. I'm chopping up the walnuts. The ones that I got were very large. I would have put them in the blender, but I ended up having to rinse them off because they had salt on them, and I didn't want to add any extra salt to the recipe. So I went ahead and just gave them a good rinse, and I felt like if I put them in the blender that it would just start sticking inside the blender. I didn't want to do that, so went ahead and just started just doing kind of a rough chop on my own. And then this happened. So yeah, I was just chopping and my camera fell over. Next, I'm doing the dry ingredients. So first up is the all-purpose flour. Now this is actually cake flour, but it can be substituted for all-purpose flour. And adding the baking powder to this as well. Just getting a couple of scoops in there. And I'll have the entire recipe in the description box below, so you guys can check it out if you want to make it yourself. So next we're sprinkling in some cinnamon, some clove, and the recipe didn't call for it, but I decided to use some nutmeg as well. I figured that spice kind of goes along with clove and cinnamon anyway, and I didn't think it was gonna hurt, so just add a little of that, and then added some salt as well. So that's what I'm adding there, and I'm just mixing that up. And just that alone smelled so good. It really smelled good. Kind of like a spice cake or spice cookie, or like gingerbread, almost like a gingerbread cookie as well. So next thing, I'm just adding the dry ingredients to the wet. And as I do that, I'm going to just kind of stir it up a little bit. I don't want to over mix it. I just want to get the flour mixed in with the wet mixture. So once I do that, I'm gonna go ahead and put a little more in there. So you see I'm just mixing that up until all the flour is mixed in. Then just get another scoop and mix that in as well. Like I said, not trying to over mix it because it is going to, I don't want it to be lumpy or make it hard to try and mix them together. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing there, just kind of slowly mixing in the dry mixture. Once the flour is fully mixed in, I go ahead and add the walnuts, the chopped walnuts. Then I add the golden raisins. And these are both purely optional. You don't have to add either one, but I just to add a little bit of flavor, I did want to add raisins. It called for regular raisins, but I like the flavor of golden raisins, so that's what I chose for mine. But if you like regular raisins, it's not going to affect the taste either way. It's still going to be a very tasty cookie. So here are the cookies, or at least what's left of them, after my son and my mom had some and we tried them out. So they're very, very tasty. They kind of remind me of like almost like a spice cookie. So we tried them out. They taste really, really good. And they're soft baked. They didn't dry out or anything. And these have been out there probably like overnight. But yeah, they taste really, really good. So right here, what I'm doing is cutting the persimmon lengthwise all the way down. Just cutting the end of that off and then just trying to make as thin cuts as possible. And what I'll do later on is cut those into half moon shapes before, as I assemble them onto the tart. And what I'm doing here is just cutting the pulp on the inside so that I can scoop the fruit out into the pan. Because what I'm going to do with that is make that into like a syrup. So I just added some pulp from some of the fruit and then a little bit of sugar, a little bit of butter, and just bring that to kind of a low boil. And that's what I'll use to brush onto the tarts just before I bake them. All right, so these are the slices. I just sliced them lengthwise and then cut those in half. I left the skin on because it seems like if you take the skin off, it starts to fall apart. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave the skin on them, but the skin is really tough, unfortunately. And hopefully that doesn't affect the taste, but I tried to slice them as thinly as possible as well. Let's see, got some really thin slices here. So I tried to slice it thin because, yeah, that skin is pretty thick, but the fruit itself is very soft. And then like the oranger it is, like you can see these are way more oranger. These are way more orange than these and those. Like this particular one I don't think was very ripe at all, but the ones from this one and this one were pretty ripe. But yeah, you can see the color, they go from a really bright green to this deep, deep orange. Here is some of the crushed up. I just kind of crushed them up as I was going along cutting. Some of the ones that were overripe, I just kind of squeezed the juice and some of the pulp out. So this is what I'm gonna make the syrup out of. So I have some butter in here right now. I'm getting ready to add the sugar. And I'm gonna go ahead and kind of let this boil, and then that's gonna be the coating for the tarts. But once I bring this to a boil, I go ahead and just turn the heat down. So I'm putting this on low and just letting it simmer for about 15 minutes before I strain the contents of the solid material and just leave the juice to brush over the tarts before I bake them. Been brushed with the syrup mixture, syrup and butter mixture, and now they're ready for the oven. Here they are. They've been in there 20 minutes. I did one heart shape. So now just waiting on them to cool off, and then next will be to taste them. See how they come out. Hopefully it got cooked right here. I didn't realize it was going to expand that much. So hopefully that cooked. But yeah, you can see it's all the fruit kind of caramelized around. So I'm thinking, yeah, they're probably going to be pretty tasty. Can't wait to try them. Guys, that is it for me this week. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you get a chance to check out Persimmon if you see them in your local farmer's market or grocery store. Also, hit me up in the comments and let me know what fruit you would use if persimmon are not available in your area or you're not able to access them. What fruit would you use? I'm thinking, like I said, apples. I think would be really good for especially that tart, and figs also. So yeah, I would love to try. Hopefully next year we have a fig tree out front, and hopefully next year I'll be able to try those and I'll be able to share that recipe with you, let you know how that is. But yeah, definitely hit me up in the comments. Subscribe, like this channel, share it with your friends, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. And hit me up on Instagram and show me pictures if you guys decide to try this, either of these recipes as well. All right, guys, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you later.